The world is built to test your peace of mind. Every notification, every piece of bad news, every change in expectation, it all feels like an attack on your focus, on your calm. And you're not alone in wanting a shelter from that, a place of quiet that nothing outside can touch. The ancient Stoics had a name for it. They called it the inner citadel. Building that citadel is the ultimate act of self-defense. It's the project of constructing a mind that no outside force can ever breach. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, he wrote about this in his private journal. He said the soul takes on the color of its own thoughts, not the color of external events. Your inner world is yours to paint, so by the end of this, you'll have a blueprint. A complete blueprint for that fortress, built from principles that are timeless and exercises you can do daily. We'll look at how to transform obstacles, how to use them as building material, and how to find a kind of freedom that doesn't exist anywhere else. It only exists within your own judgment. What does true mental invincibility look like to you? Some things are up to us and some things are not. Epictetus said that it's the first wall, the strongest one. It sounds obvious, but the power isn't in saying it. It's in doing it. This is the dichotomy of control, and it's not about surrender. It's about discernment, active, ruthless sorting. You take the whole world and you make two piles. One pile is what you command, the other pile is everything else. The Stoics were precise about the first pile. What's in it? Your opinions, your desires, your aversions, your judgments, everything inside your own mind, your own will. The second pile is everything outside your command. The weather, the past, what other people think of you, traffic, the stock market, whether you get a promotion, even your own body's health. You don't control these. You can influence them, you can prepare, you can work toward them, but you don't have final authority over the outcome. This distinction is your foundation. It tells you where to build. You don't build a fortress to stop the rain. You build a roof. You don't build a wall to stop someone's negative thought. You build a wall around your own belief, the belief that their opinion defines you. The fortress goes around your judgments, not around the world. Epictetus started his handbook with this. He said, if you confuse what's yours with what isn't, you'll be hindered, you'll mourn, you'll be disturbed, you'll blame gods and men. But if you judge only what's yours as your own, then no one can compel you. No one can restrict you. You'll blame no one. You'll do nothing against your will. You'll have no enemy because no one can harm you, not in what is truly yours. Take an example, harsh feedback at work. The external event, the thing not up to you, is that the words were spoken. They were written, that happened. It's in the past, it's a fact. What is up to you is your judgment about those words. Do you see them as a personal attack, a catastrophe, proof you failed? Or do you see them as data, as information you can choose to use or disregard? Your emotional storm, your anxiety, that doesn't come from the words. It comes from the judgment you placed on them, the story you told yourself about what they mean. The first act of fortification is to pause, to consciously separate the event from your narrative. The event is outside the wall, your narrative is inside, and it's yours to rewrite. So a practical exercise, a way to lay bricks. Think of a common anxiety. A relationship tension, a financial worry, a performance goal. Take a mental sheet of paper, draw 2 columns. In the first column, list everything in that situation that's truly within your control. Your effort, your preparation, your attitude today, your communication, your next action. In the second column, list everything that is not, the other person's reaction. The market conditions, the final outcome, the opinions of spectators. Just doing this begins the construction. It moves the chaos outside your walls and leaves you standing inside, clear-eyed, in a space you can actually manage. This isn't giving up. It's choosing your battlefield and choosing one where you are sovereign. There's a split second between something happening and your reaction, a gap, a tiny space, and in that space is your sovereignty. The Stoics called this assent. It's the second principle of the inner citadel, the gatekeeper. The world is always presenting impressions, a rude comment, a delayed train, a bad result. That's just raw data. It's not reality yet. It's like a messenger pounding on your gate, shouting a report. The messenger isn't the problem. The problem is how fast you swing the gate open and let the whole story inside. Assent is saying yes, agreeing that the impression isn't just something that happened, but something that's true. Something good to believe. To feel insulted is to assent to the impression that an insult happened. To feel anxious is to assent to the impression that something will be terrible. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this constantly. He reminded himself not to get carried away by the vehemence of the impression. He said to ask of every impression, are you necessary? He said you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize that, and you find strength. The power is in the pause between the messenger's shout and your command to open the gate. You have a choice to investigate, to question. Is this impression accurate? Is it helpful? Is it even mine to carry? Take a practical example. Someone cuts you off in traffic. The initial impression is a flash of heat, a thought that person is a jerk, they disrespected me. That's the messenger. The undisciplined mind assents immediately. It swings the gate wide. Anger floods in. Your heart rate jumps. Your mood darkens for the next hour. The event lasted 2 seconds, but the reaction owns the next 60 minutes. The disciplined mind, the one building the citadel, does something different. It hears the messenger, it feels the flash, but it pauses, it withholds assent. It asks, is it absolutely true that person intended to disrespect me? Could they be distracted or rushed or just not have seen me? Is my anger useful here? The event is the same. The car cut you off. That's outside your control. But your judgment about it, your assent to a narrative of personal offense, that's entirely within your control. By withholding that assent, you prevent the invasion. The emotional storm never gains entry. Your inner peace stays intact. Think of a recent minor frustration, spilled coffee, a poorly phrased email, a cancelled plan. In that moment, what was the automatic judgment you agreed with? Did you assent to the idea that the day was ruined, that someone was incompetent, that you're unlucky? That initial assent is the seed of your entire emotional experience. The practice is to become an investigator of your own mind, to notice those messengers, to greet them at the gate and ask for their credentials before you let them in. This isn't suppression, it's wise governance. You're not ignoring the world. You're choosing with clarity how the world is allowed to shape your inner realm. With each withheld assent to a harmful judgment, you add another stone to your wall. You reinforce the gate, and you discover most of the noise outside never needed to become turmoil inside. It was only ever a suggestion waiting for your permission. A citadel falls not from an attack, but from what its defender wants from outside. The third wall is built right there with the discipline of desire. It's the architecture of your wants. Any longing for something you don't control is a hidden door in your fortress, a secret passage you've left open, and disappointment can just walk right in. The Stoic goal is to seal those passages, to align your desires so completely with what is virtuous and with what is within your command that nothing external can threaten your peace. It's a radical reorientation. You stop wanting the world to be a certain way. You start wanting only your own actions to be excellent. The ancient Greeks called this excellence arete. It's your character in action. It's the only thing you can truly guarantee. Seneca wrote about this. He said the man who depends on fortune for his happiness will never be happy. Because fortune gives and takes away on its own schedule. To tie your joy to her gifts is to hand her the key to your inner peace. He advised instead to desire only what you can give yourself. A clear conscience, a reasoned judgment, a courageous act, a kind word. These are the currencies of the inner citadel. They can't be devalued by outside events. Take a common desire, the desire for a promotion. It's a natural want, but look at its anatomy. The promotion itself, the title, the raise, the approval, these are external outcomes. You can influence them with excellent work, but you don't control the final decision. The budget, the politics, the timing, another candidate, these are all outside your walls. If you desire only the promotion, you've built your happiness on a foundation others can shake. So reframe it. What is within your control, your diligence, your integrity, your willingness to learn, your professionalism, your commitment to the team's success. The Stoic discipline is to shift the desire. Desire not the promotion, but to perform your work with such excellence that you would deserve it. Desire to be the kind of person who earns respect through action. This desire is entirely yours to fulfill. No board meeting can veto it. No competitor can take it from you. The outcome may or may not come, but if it doesn't, your core desire, your desire to act with virtue, has already been satisfied. You are not left empty. Your fortress stays secure. The vulnerability comes from the tether, that invisible string tying your sense of worth to an external verdict. Cut that tether and you are free. The practice is a daily audit. Take one desire you hold that feels heavy with expectation. Maybe it's the desire for a relationship to work out a specific way, or for a creative project to be praised, or just for a day to go exactly according to plan. Gently pull that desire apart. Separate the external outcome you're attached to from the internal intention you can own. Instead of desiring the specific outcome, desire to act with love, with honesty, with creativity, with patience, regardless of the result. This is aligning with nature, with your own best nature. When your wants are rooted here, in the soil of your own agency, they grow into resilience, not dependency. Every time you succeed in this reframe, you aren't just accepting life. You are mastering your relationship to it. You are reinforcing the inner citadel with the strongest material there is, a will that wants only what it can already provide. The Stoic sage is a citizen, not a hermit. Your inner strength, it fuels right action. That's the fourth principle, the discipline of action. It answers a question. Once you've built these inner walls, what do you do inside them? Do you just sit there, safe and detached? The Stoic answer is no. The fortress isn't a prison. It's a command center. From that place of calm, you are meant to engage, to act for the common welfare, because we are social beings connected by nature. Marcus Aurelius, he ruled an empire. He reminded himself of this duty. He wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." Your resilience, your discernment, your inner peace, these aren't just for you. They are fuel for your contribution. The purpose of the citadel is to protect your capacity to do good, even when the world is chaotic. Think of a walled city during a storm. It isn't useless, it becomes shelter, a hub for organizing aid, a stable point from which to help others. Your mind fortified serves the same function. When you're not thrown into panic by external events, you have clarity, you have energy, you can see what needs to be done and do it with justice, kindness, concern for others. This is where philosophy meets the pavement. It's how you treat the slow cashier, how you handle a stressful team project, how you vote, how you parent, how you create. Every action becomes an expression of your fortified character. This brings us to a Stoic tool, preferred indifference. It sounds technical, but it's practical. Some things in life are indifferent to our virtue, to our moral character. Health, wealth, reputation, even relationships, these aren't good or bad in themselves. They are preferred or dispreferred. We naturally prefer health over illness, success over failure, friendship over loneliness, and the Stoics say, of course, pursue them. Engage in your career, build your relationships, care for your body. But here is the shift. Do not make your inner peace dependent on securing them. You work for the promotion because it's a preferred indifferent. A thing that allows you to provide, to contribute, to exercise your skills, but you don't see failure to get it as a catastrophe, a breach in your walls. You act in the relationship with love and loyalty because connection is preferred, but you don't base your entire happiness on the other person's every mood. You act for the common good, and you accept the outcome with equanimity. So how does this look on a Tuesday afternoon? You have a difficult conversation ahead. The undisciplined mind goes into it wanting a specific outcome, to be agreed with, to be vindicated, to win. Its peace is tied to that result. The disciplined mind goes in with a different aim. Its goal is to act with honesty, with fairness, with a genuine attempt to understand, to contribute to a resolution, not just to personal victory. The action is for the common welfare of that relationship, that team, that family. The specific outcome, whether you get your way, becomes a preferred indifferent. You prefer it, but your integrity does not depend on it. This transforms duty from a burden into a source of meaning. Washing the dishes becomes an act of care for your household. Doing your job well becomes a service. Even a simple smile to a stranger becomes a brick in the common wall of human kindness. So here is a prompt. How can you perform your next task, your very next interaction, not just for personal gain, but as a contribution to a wider whole? See that action as coming from your citadel, from that place of strength you are building. It's in these moments that philosophy stops being a thought and starts being a life. And it shows that the strongest fortress isn't one that hides from the world. It's one from which you can step out to meet it, whole and undivided. Amor Fati. Love of fate, the fifth principle, the final layer of the inner citadel. It's not just acceptance, it's embrace. You're not gritting your teeth, you're looking at everything. The good, the bad, the ordinary, and you say, yes, this is for me. I will it because it's the raw material, the stuff you build with. Friedrich Nietzsche gave it that name. Amor Fati, he was inspired by the Stoics. He said his formula for greatness was this: to want nothing, to be different, not forward, not backward, not ever. Not to just bear what's necessary, but to love it. That's the Stoic vision, the radical one. Marcus Aurelius was always touching on it. He wrote that the impediment to action advances the action. What stands in the way becomes the way. A rock in a stream, it doesn't stop the water, it directs it, it shapes the current, so the obstacle isn't an interruption of your path. It is your path. Your character isn't built in the easy moments, it's sculpted in the difficult ones. Wood is carved by friction, metal is tempered by fire. Your inner citadel is built with the very stones that seemed, at first, like weapons thrown against it. Practicing it starts with a shift in narrative. You take the story you're telling yourself, and you rewrite the ending before it's even over. A setback isn't a derailment, it's a redirection. History is full of these turns. An inventor, their laboratory burns down, years of notes and prototypes gone. The external event is a total loss, a catastrophe. The undisciplined mind sees only ruin. But the mind practicing Amor Fati asks a different question. What if this fire clears the ground for a better design? What if it forces a simplicity I'd never have chosen? There are cases where such a loss led to a breakthrough, precisely because the old assumptions were burned away. The person didn't just recover, they rebuilt on a stronger foundation. One they hadn't seen before. Bring it closer. A project at work fails spectacularly. The immediate feeling is embarrassment, wasted time, a blow to your reputation. That's the messenger at the gate. Amor Fati means you thank the messenger for the delivery. You look at that failure and you ask what it's teaching you. About preparation, about teamwork, about your own assumptions. That failure is now a brick of humility, a brick of resilience, a brick of sharper insight for the next attempt. It's material. Without it, your wall would have a weak spot. You needed it. This is the proactive stance, to will the events of your life as if you had chosen them yourself. For your own development, it's the ultimate declaration of sovereignty over your inner world. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the architect using circumstance. So think of one current difficulty, a source of stress, frustration, anxiety. It could be a conflict, a financial pressure, a health concern. Set aside the problem itself for a moment. Instead, list 3 ways this situation is actively strengthening your character or refining your perspective. Is it teaching you patience? Is it forcing you to prioritize what truly matters? Is it revealing a hidden strength in your relationships? Is it dissolving an old illusion you held? Write those 3 things down. That simple act transforms the event. It moves it from a hostile invasion to delivered building supplies. You stop fighting the brick and you start placing it in your wall. With each brick placed, the citadel grows taller, and the view from the top gets clearer. The 6th principle is the view from above. It's the last vantage point inside your inner citadel. You step up onto the battlements of your mind. You look at your life from a great height, and from there, the noise of the world becomes a distant hum. Your own concerns, the ones that feel so urgent down on the ground, they start to look like small pieces. Pieces in a vast, beautiful mosaic. Marcus Aurelius made this a cornerstone of his practice. He would remind himself to take the view from the stars, to see the whole earth as just a single point, and on that point all the great cities, the armies, the dramas of humanity, all of it reduced to a faint shimmer. He wrote about keeping before your eyes the swiftness of the passage of all things. How many people you knew have passed away, and in a short time all of us will be laid to rest. That wasn't morbid for him, it was liberating because it shrinks the trivial. It reveals what actually lasts: your character, your actions, your contribution to the whole. The view from above is a deliberate act. You mentally zoom out from the immediate pressure of a problem. You see it in the context of your entire life, then in the context of human history, then in the context of the cosmos itself. That argument you had this morning, from ground level, it feels like a seismic event. From the height of a year, it's a forgotten moment. From the height of a century, it never existed. That doesn't mean your feelings are invalid. It means they are temporary. And seeing that temporary nature, it robs them of their power to dominate you. It creates space for a calmer response, a wiser one. Here's how you practice it. Take a current worry, a financial pressure, a social slight, a professional setback. Close your eyes for a moment. First, see the worry as it is. A concrete problem in your immediate world. Now pull your mental camera back. See yourself in the room. See your home on your street, your town on the map, your country on the globe. See the earth as a blue marble, floating in the black silence of space. Now pull back through time. See this moment in the span of your life. See your life in the span of human history, a single thread in a tapestry woven for thousands of years. See all the people who have ever lived, each with their own loves and losses, their triumphs and fears, just like yours. From this height, does the problem change its essential nature? It's still there, but its weight has shifted. Its ability to storm your gates has diminished. It becomes a manageable piece, a piece of a much larger story, your story. This perspective fosters a profound equanimity. It connects you to something greater than your isolated self. You are a part of the whole, a citizen of the universe. Marcus wrote that what brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee. Your actions matter, but your personal dramas are not the center of the cosmic stage. They are part of the flow. That realization is a deep source of peace. It turns anxiety into awe. It turns resentment into curiosity. It turns fear into a quiet determination, a determination to play your part well. So tonight, before you sleep, try this. Give it just 2 minutes. Lie still. Bring to mind one thing that felt heavy today. Then, in your mind's eye, begin to rise above it. See your day from the perspective of the week. See your week from the perspective of the year. See your year from the perspective of your life's purpose. Breathe, and as you drift off, rest in that expanded view. You're building not just a fortress but an observatory, a place to see the true scale of things, and from that height you can finally build with wisdom. Because you can see what is truly worth building. A general gets ready for a fight. To get your mind ready, you practice the premeditation of evils. That's the 7th principle of your inner fortress. Premeditatio Malorum, it means thinking about troubles ahead of time. It sounds grim, but it's a strategic exercise, like a fire drill but for your spirit. The point isn't to invite fear, it's to take away its power, to make your mind immune to the shock of something unexpected. The Stoics considered this a fundamental practice. Seneca would set aside certain days to practice being poor. He'd put on rough clothes, sleep on a hard bed, eat plain food. He'd imagine all his wealth was gone. Not to make himself suffer, but to uncover a deeper truth. He wrote that he was showing himself that the things people are afraid of aren't so heavy if you've carried them in your mind first. He was pulling out the stinger. By facing the possibility with calm, he stole its power to terrify him. That's the key difference. Anxious worry is a chaotic spin. It keeps asking, what if this happens, and then what if that happens, and what if it all collapses? It's passive. It's full of fear. Premeditatio is a calm, reasoned rehearsal. It asks, if this happens, what will my thoughtful, principled response be? It's active, it's strategic. One weakens your defenses, the other strengthens them. You're not predicting doom, you're preparing your reply. You're charting the landscape of a possible challenge so that, if you ever have to cross it, you're not lost in an emotional fog. You have a plan. You've already, in your mind, kept your calm. Take a modern example. You have a big presentation at work. The anxious mind gets stuck on the nightmare. What if I forget what to say? What if the projector dies? What if they ask something I can't answer? That loop just creates stress. The Stoic drill is different. You sit quietly, you picture the room, you see yourself starting to speak, and then you bring in the problem. You imagine the projector bulb burning out. In your visualization, you don't panic, you take a breath, you say, looks like we'll have to go without the slides. Let me just summarize the main points. And you keep going, adapting calmly. You imagine forgetting an important point. In your mind's eye, you pause, you glance at your notes with a small smile, and you find your place again. You're not practicing failure, you're practicing resilience. You're training your brain to see obstacles as manageable interruptions, not as catastrophic endings. The power is in the detachment. By facing the possibility on purpose, you separate the external event from your internal reaction. The event becomes a scenario. Your reaction becomes a choice. You've already chosen composure. So when, or if, the real moment comes, it feels familiar. Its teeth are gone. You've already lived through it in your mind and came out with your character whole. Apply this to something smaller. You're driving to an important meeting. Premeditatio isn't worrying about traffic. It's calmly thinking, if I hit bad traffic, what's my response? I'll call ahead to let them know. I'll use the time to listen to a book or sort out my thoughts. I'll accept that I can't control the cars, only my own behavior. The moment you have that plan, the anxiety about being late lets go. The obstacle isn't a monster anymore. It's a logistical puzzle you've already solved. So here's a prompt for reflection. Pick one thing coming up that holds a bit of unease for you. A hard conversation, a doctor's visit, a money decision. Launching a creative project. Now take 5 minutes somewhere quiet. Mentally walk through the event going well. Then, introduce one single, reasonable worst-case turn. Not some wild disaster, but a plausible setback. See it happening, and then, with deliberate calm, write your response in your mind. How would you hold to your values? How would you keep your inner peace? What's the very next practical step you would take? Walk through it. This mental rehearsal builds a hidden strength. It stores a toolkit of calm responses inside your fortress walls, ready for the day you might need it. You're not waiting for life to test you. You're running the test yourself on your own terms and passing it ahead of time. The eighth principle is Memento Mori. Remember, you are mortal. It's a Stoic tool. It's a chisel for your priorities. This awareness of limited time isn't meant to paralyze. It's meant to energize. It strips away vanity, the petty grievances, the procrastination on what matters. When you know your life's craft has an end date, you stop wasting the material. You build with intention. Marcus Aurelius kept this close. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, what you say and think." Not as a threat, but as a compass. If this were your last day, would you spend this hour like this? Would you invest energy in this argument, this worry? This distraction? The answer becomes clear, painfully clear, beautifully clear. Remembering mortality doesn't shrink your life. It deepens it. It adds richness to the ordinary moment. Because you see it not as a given, but as a gift, a single brick you get to place. Consider most days, the small resentments we nurse, the hours lost to scrolling. The important conversation we delay, the project will start someday. Now bring the remembrance close. Feel the finiteness of your time, not as an abstraction, but as a gentle pressure on your shoulder. How does the landscape change? That resentment seems a waste of energy. That scroll feels like borrowing time from your legacy. That conversation becomes urgent. That project demands to be begun, not someday, but today, even with one small step. This practice isn't grim urgency. It's profound appreciation, directed action. It's the difference between wandering a museum with no closing time, glancing casually, and knowing you have 1 hour left to see what moves you most. You move with purpose, you look with deeper eyes. A practical application is a morning ritual, a silent moment before the day begins. To recall this day is not a guarantee, but an opportunity. To ask, if this were my last, how would I want to have lived it? Not with grand gestures necessarily, but with integrity, with presence, with kindness. With full engagement in the work, you carry that question as a lens. It filters out noise. A snippy email becomes a minor event. A long line becomes a chance to practice patience. To observe, to simply be. An evening with family becomes a sacred space, not something to rush through. So a prompt, a question. If you were reminded of your mortality each morning, what one thing would you do differently today? Not in your whole life, just today. Would you make that phone call, write that first paragraph, put the device down and listen, take a walk and notice the sky? One thing, the remembrance makes that one thing not just a good idea, but a necessary act of craftsmanship. It turns daily life into the construction of a legacy. A legacy that, while you are here, is unshakable. That's the final truth of the inner citadel, sobering, liberating. It is built not for eternity out there, but for a life fully lived in here. In the time you are given, your citadel gets stronger when you see it's connected to all the others. That's the ninth principle, Sympatheia. It's this Stoic idea of everything being linked. It becomes the last layer of your inner defense, because a fortress that thinks it's alone can be besieged. But a fortress that knows it's part of a continent, it can't be isolated. The Stoics viewed the cosmos as one living, rational thing, a single interconnected whole. You're not a separate stone, you're a conscious piece of that whole. Your mind comes from the same universal reason that moves the stars and the seasons, and that changes how you see other people, especially the ones who act against you. Marcus Aurelius kept returning to this. He wrote that what hurts the hive hurts the bee. He told himself that someone doing wrong is just misguided. They're acting from ignorance of what's good. In that moment, they believe what they're doing is right or necessary. This isn't to excuse harm, it's to see where it comes from. When you view an offense as ignorance, not as some targeted malice aimed at you, its power to break your walls goes down. It becomes a glitch in the system, not a personal war. Think about a time someone criticized you unfairly. That immediate feeling is attack. Your walls go up. Defenses mobilize, anger comes in. Now apply sympatheia. Pause. See that person as a fellow human, someone acting from their own pain, their own stress, their own limited view. They don't know your full story. You don't know theirs. They're probably struggling with their own inner citadel, maybe one that's falling apart or under siege. Reframing it this way doesn't mean you accept poor treatment. It means you respond from strength, not from reactive fury. You can set a boundary clearly because you're not hijacked by emotion. You can correct a mistake firmly because you see the error as separate from the person's worth. The offense becomes like bad weather hitting your fortress. You don't take the storm personally. You just secure the gates and wait for it to pass, knowing it's a temporary condition of the atmosphere, not a judgment on your existence. So here's something to try in the next day. Bring to mind one person, someone you have friction with, large or small, a co-worker, a family member, a stranger from an encounter. In your mind, practice seeing them through shared humanity. Consider what burdens they might carry that you can't see, what fears or misunderstandings might be guiding them. See them as a fragment of the same whole you're part of. This exercise isn't about becoming passive. It's about disarming the emotional charge inside you. It's realizing your peace is too valuable to be shattered by someone else's momentary ignorance. When you stand in your connected citadel, you're defending more than yourself. You're defending a node in the whole network of reason. Your calm becomes a contribution. Your resilience strengthens the fabric, and in that knowing you find a deeper fortification. One built not on isolation but on belonging. The 10th principle is the art of contentment. It's the idea that what you're looking for is already inside. It's not something you find later. It's the steady hum of your own character. The Stoics called this eudaimonia, a deep, lasting flourishing, a life well lived. And they were clear, this flourishing depends on the quality of your soul, on your virtue, not on what you own. Epictetus said it simply, wealth is not about having a lot. It's about wanting very little. He wasn't praising poverty. He was pointing to a truth. If your sense of enough is tied to things outside, you're on a treadmill. You get one thing and you want the next. The goalpost moves. You're always outside your own walls, chasing a horizon that keeps moving away. Contentment is stepping off that treadmill, turning around and seeing the home you were seeking was behind you, built from your own judgments, your own actions, your own capacity for virtue. This flips the script. Our culture often says a good life is a full resume, a full bank account, a full calendar of experiences. The Stoic asks a different question. Can you be at peace with an empty room? With a silent hour, with a simple meal? If your inner state needs constant acquisition, you're vulnerable. You've built your citadel on sand because those things come and go. They're granted by fortune, and fortune changes. But if your peace is built on your ability to act with integrity, to face hardship with courage, to treat others with kindness, then you've built on bedrock. No market crash can take that. No change in status can erase it. Think of two people in a museum. One is a collector, obsessed with owning the pieces. A temporary thrill with each purchase, then anxiety about theft or finding the next masterpiece. The other is a lover of art who finds lasting joy in just looking. In understanding, in the experience itself, the first person's happiness depends on possession. The second is rooted in appreciation. The Stoic art of contentment is about becoming that second person in the museum of your own life. You stop trying to own the scenery. You learn to see it, to be present within it. So practice begins with a daily audit. Not of what you lack, but of what you already command. Your capacity for patience in a long line, your ability to choose kindness when you're tired, your courage to speak a difficult truth, your discipline to finish a task well. These are the real currencies. They never depreciate. Here's a prompt. Take a moment. List 3 non-material qualities you know you have. Your curiosity, your sense of humor, your resilience from a past challenge, your willingness to listen. Write them down, even just in your mind. Now reflect on their value. That curiosity has led you to learn. That humor has lightened dark days. That resilience brought you through storms. These aren't minor traits. They're the pillars of your character. They're the treasure inside your walls. The pursuit of more outside things often blinds us to the wealth we already hold. The art of contentment is the practice of returning your gaze again and again to that inner wealth, to dust it off, to appreciate it, and to build your entire sense of worth upon it. When you do, a shift happens. The world outside loses its power to make you feel poor. You've found a sufficiency no one can take away. A messenger at the gate doesn't command the garrison. That's the 11th principle: cognitive distancing. It's seeing your thoughts and feelings as visitors, not as rulers. You learn to watch them from a slight remove. See them arrive, state their business, and leave, without letting them take over the fortress. It's the art of separating the impression from the reality. Epictetus gave us the foundation. We're disturbed not by things, but by the views we take of them. That view is a judgment, and that judgment is a thought. It's a mental event, and you are not that event. You're the space where it happens. The technique is simple in form, but profound. It's a small shift in language inside your mind. Instead of thinking, "I am angry," you note, "I am having the thought that I am angry," or "I'm noticing a feeling of anger." That tiny phrase, "I am having the thought that," it creates a buffer. It puts a sliver of awareness between you and the storm. You're no longer drowning in the wave. You're standing on the shore, watching it rise and fall. The emotion doesn't disappear, but its identity changes. It's no longer who you are. It's something passing through the weather of your mind. Take anxiety before a social event. The undisciplined mind gets consumed. "I am so anxious. This is terrible. I can't do this." The thought and the self become one tangled knot. The feeling feels like a command to retreat, to avoid. Now apply the distance. Sit quietly for a moment. Acknowledge the sensation. Say, "I am experiencing a feeling of nervousness. I am having the thought that this will be awkward." Just label it. Don't fight it. Don't believe it. Just note its presence, like noting a cloud passing in front of the sun. This act of labeling is like giving the messenger a name. "Ah, you are messenger anxiety. I see you. I've received your report. Thank you. Now you may go." The emotional charge often loses its grip because you've stopped identifying with it. You've remembered you are the citadel, not the weather outside. This isn't suppression. It's wise observation. It lets you respond to the feeling instead of being hijacked by it. From that calm point, you can ask better questions. Is this thought helpful? Is it based on fact or on a story I'm telling myself? What would I do right now if I weren't believing this thought? So here's a practice for the next time a strong, difficult emotion comes up. Frustration in traffic, hurt from a comment, worry about the future. Pause. Take one breath and in your mind gently apply the label. I'm having the feeling of frustration. I'm noticing a thought that I've been wronged. I'm observing a wave of worry. Do this with curiosity, not judgment. See if you can hold the feeling in your awareness without letting it define you, even for just 10 seconds. That space is where your freedom lies. It's the gap between the knock on the gate and your decision to open it. And with each practice, that gap widens until your inner peace has all the room it needs to breathe. A fortress is tested. You have to trust your walls, and to do that, sometimes you need to step outside them on purpose. That's the 12th principle: voluntary discomfort. It's training for your inner citadel. You pick a small hardship, not because you have to, but because you can, to prove something to yourself, that your peace isn't held hostage by comfort, that your happiness isn't a prisoner of circumstance. The Stoics saw this as maintenance, essential maintenance. Seneca wrote letters to his friend Lucilius about this. He told him to set aside a few days, to be content with the cheapest food, the coarsest clothing, to remind himself this is the condition fortune could reduce you to. And then to ask, is this what I used to dread? The goal isn't to live like that forever. It's to remove the fear of it, to find out you're more resilient than your comforts suggest. It's a fire drill for your spirit. You don't wait for the flames to test your escape route. You practice the route in the calm, so if smoke ever fills the hallways, you know the way out. By heart, this builds a specific confidence, not confidence that you'll always win, confidence that you can endure, that you can be okay even when conditions aren't ideal. It's the muscle of resilience, and like any muscle, it grows stronger with deliberate, measured strain. Think of it this way. If your entire sense of well-being is built on perfect temperature, perfect meals, perfect convenience, then you've built a house of glass. A single stone of inconvenience can shatter it, but if you've weathered a little cold on purpose, a little hunger, a little inconvenience, you learn a deeper truth. You are not the glass, you are the person inside who remains whole regardless of the weather outside. So what does this look like now in everyday life? It's choosing the small, safe challenge. It's taking a cold shower for the last 30 seconds, not to punish yourself, but to feel your own breath steady. To feel your will override the initial shock. It's skipping a meal, not from neglect, but to sit with the sensation of hunger, to observe that it's just a sensation. It doesn't command your mood unless you let it. It's walking to the store instead of driving on a cool day, feeling the effort in your legs and realizing the journey itself can be part of the experience. Not just an obstacle to the destination. Each of these acts is a brick of proof that you are not fragile, that your inner citadel can withstand a draft. A minor shortage, an extra effort, and when involuntary hardship comes later, as it will, you meet it not as a stranger but as familiar terrain. You've already walked this ground. You know you can cross it, so here's a simple challenge for the coming week. Choose one small, voluntary discomfort, something safe, manageable. It could be turning off the heat in your car for a short drive. And just noticing the chill. It could be leaving your phone in another room for an evening. It could be eating a very simple, plain meal once. The point isn't the act itself. It's the observation of your inner world during it. What thoughts arise? What stories does your mind tell? Do you feel deprived, or do you discover a quiet strength in simplicity? That observation is the training. It's you, the commander of the citadel, inspecting the walls under a mild stress, and with each inspection, your trust in your own fortifications grows. Unshakable, the past is memory, the future is imagination. Your sovereignty is only in the now. That's the 13th principle. The present moment is your true domain. It's the ground floor, the only place you can actually stand, where you can act, where you can choose. Everything else is a story, a projection. Anxiety builds its home in the future. It weaves tales of what might go wrong. Regret digs its foundations in the past. It replays scenes you can't change. Both are phantoms, they have no power. Accept the power you give them by leaving the present to visit them. Marcus Aurelius anchored himself here. In the now, he wrote, confine yourself to the present. He told himself to divide and conquer the task before him, not to be distracted by what might come later, because the future, when it arrives, will be just another present moment to meet. And the past is already a set of impressions filed away. The work of the fortress is done brick by brick, in real time. You can't lay a brick yesterday. You can't lay a brick tomorrow. You can only lay the one in your hand today. This focus changes mundane action. Think of washing dishes. The mind that is not present is somewhere else. It's rehearsing a conversation for tomorrow or churning over a comment from yesterday. The hands move automatically. The water runs, but you are absent. You've abandoned your post. The Stoic practice is to return, to feel the warmth of the water, to see the light glint on a clean plate, to hear the soft clink of ceramic. To perform this simple act with your full attention. In that full attention, there's no room for worry or remorse. You are completely occupied in your domain. Doing the work of the moment well, the same applies to writing a report or exercising or listening to a friend. Worry about externals is always a departure. It's a mental journey to a place where you have no agency, a future outcome you can't control, a past event you can't alter. The present task, however small, is the one thing you can command. You can command your focus, your effort, your attitude toward it. When you pour yourself completely into that, you are invulnerable, because nothing can distract a mind that is fully where it is. So here's a simple prompt. Today, pick one routine activity, making your coffee, walking to your car, folding laundry, and perform it with complete, undivided attention. Notice the details your mind usually glosses over: the scent, the texture, the rhythm of your own breath. When your thoughts drift to a future concern or a past regret, as they will, gently guide them back. Not with frustration, but with calm redirection. Your post is here, this moment, this sensation, this single, manageable action. In that space, you find a quiet strength. The unshakable strength of a mind fully at home. A missed flight might be the best thing that happens to you this year. You just don't know it yet. That's judgment suspension. It's the pause, the habit of not calling something good or bad the moment it happens, because you don't have the full story. You're reading the first line and calling the whole book a tragedy. The practice is to close the book and wait. Epictetus gave us the core. He said it's not things that disturb people, but their judgments about those things. And then he went further. He said there is nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. The event itself is neutral. It just is. The meaning, the value, the emotional charge. That's your contribution. It's the judgment you layer on top, and that judgment is almost always automatic. It's a reflex. A sudden change in plans triggers frustration. Unexpected criticism triggers defensiveness. A financial loss triggers fear. These are immediate verdicts. They feel true, but they're just first drafts, written in haste. Judgment suspension is the act of not signing that draft. It's saying, I see this event, I feel the initial reaction, but I will not yet declare its ultimate meaning. I'll withhold my verdict until more evidence comes in. This creates a space between the event and your final story about it. In that space, your rational mind gets a chance to speak. Your virtue gets a chance to guide your response. Without that space, you're a puppet to your initial impulse. Your inner citadel is stormed before the gates are even locked. Take a modern example. You get harsh, unexpected feedback on a project you poured your heart into. The immediate, automatic judgment is catastrophic. This is terrible. I've failed. They don't appreciate my work. That judgment floods your system with stress, with shame, with a desire to lash out or retreat. Now apply the pause, feel the wave of that initial judgment, and then, internally, state a simple fact. I do not yet know what this means. This feedback has arrived. That is a fact. Its value, its truth, its role in my growth, these are unknowns. By suspending judgment, you change the entire internal dynamic. You're no longer fighting a monster called failure. You're examining a piece of data called feedback. From that comma place, you can ask better questions. Is there any useful truth here I can learn from? Is this about the work or about the person delivering it? How can I respond with professionalism, not reactivity? The event hasn't changed, but your relationship to it has transformed. You've moved from victim of a bad event to investigator of a neutral one. This principle turns so-called misfortunes into raw material. History is full of stories where a seeming disaster became a pivot. An inventor's rejected patent leads them to a simpler, better design. A writer's harsh critique strips away a pretentious style and reveals their authentic voice. A missed connection leads to a conversation that changes a career path. At the moment of the event, it felt like a loss. Only later, with the full context of time, did its value reveal itself. The Stoic doesn't wait for later to find peace. They borrow that future perspective now. By refusing to label the event as bad, they remain open to the possibility that it is, in fact, a strange and disguised form of good. So here's a reflective prompt. The next time life delivers an unexpected event, a cancelled plan, a critical comment, a sudden obstacle, practice the internal mantra. Just say to yourself, I suspend judgment. I do not yet know what this means. Say it once, breathe, and observe what happens in the space that opens up. Does the tightness in your chest loosen? Does a new, more thoughtful response begin to form? This single habit is a master key. It unlocks a door to a deeper calm. Because it acknowledges a profound truth. You are not the judge of the universe's plan. You are the architect of your own response, and the best blueprints are always drawn with a clear, patient mind. The mind is a piece of universal reason. Strength is aligning that piece with the whole. That's the 15th principle, aligning with the logos, the rational order the Stoics saw in everything. In an oak tree growing in a planet's orbit, the idea that everything follows a providential plan, a good plan because it's rational, that's the deepest foundation for your inner citadel. It's not just personal peace, it's your place in a meaningful cosmos. When your reasoning aligns with that cosmic reason, you stop fighting reality, you cooperate with it. Adversity isn't a senseless attack anymore, it's a specific lesson, material delivered to your workshop, by nature itself for your particular craft. Marcus Aurelius kept coming back to this. He wrote that nothing happens to anyone that nature hasn't fitted them to bear. He said to welcome every event, even the harsh ones, because it leads to the health of the universe. To the well-being of the whole. This wasn't blind faith. It was a reasoned trust, a trust that the same intelligence that designs a seed to become a tree designs challenges to shape a soul. The philosopher Cleans, in his hymn to Zeus, praised this force. He called it the law that steers all things through all things, the logos. When you see your life as part of that steering, a calm sets in. Your small story is a sentence in a grand story, and you can trust the author. That transforms how you meet difficulty. A job loss, a health challenge, a betrayal. These aren't random bolts of lightning. They're the specific weather conditions for your growth. The oak tree doesn't curse the wind. It uses that constant pressure to sink its roots deeper. To strengthen its trunk, your challenges are your wind. They're the exact pressure needed to fortify the parts of your character that are still green wood. This perspective asks a different question. Not why is this happening to me, but what is this happening for me? What quality is this meant to develop? Patience, courage, detachment, compassion. The event is the curriculum, and nature is the teacher. So bring this down. Think of a recent setback, a project that fell apart, a plan that dissolved. The immediate story is frustration and loss. Now apply the lens of the logos. Pause. Consider that this dissolution might be making space, clearing ground for something that fits the larger pattern of your life better. That the frustration itself is a signal your will was too attached to an outcome outside your command. The event isn't a punishment, it's a recalibration, an invitation to align your efforts with a wider flow. The practice is a quiet reflection, not in the heat of the moment but in stillness later. Look at the difficulty and ask, if this were part of a wise plan for my development, what might it be teaching? Is it breaking a dependency? Is it forcing a skill I've neglected? Is it redirecting my energy toward a more authentic path? You don't need a personal deity for this. You only need to trust that nature tends toward balance, growth, and order. And that you, as a rational part of nature, are meant to participate in that order. This alignment is the source of unshakable peace. Because when you stop seeing yourself as a separate island battling the waves and start seeing yourself as the ocean itself, in one of its momentary forms, the struggle ends. You are home in the whole, and from that belonging you draw a strength no isolated self could ever muster. The walls of your citadel are no longer just your own. They are the very order of the universe standing with you. A wise commander takes stock of his supplies each night. You take stock of your gifts. That's the 16th principle. Gratitude as an inventory of your garrison. It's a deliberate audit of what's already inside your walls, not to boast but to recognize sufficiency, to see that your inner citadel is already well provisioned. And envy, that feeling of lack, is often just a failure of attention, looking past your own stockpiles toward someone else's distant storehouse. The Stoics saw this as a discipline of perspective. Marcus Aurelius began his meditations with a list of debts. He thanked his grandfather for a good reputation, his father for dignity, his mother for piety, his tutors for specific lessons. He was cataloging a non-material inheritance, the virtues that formed his character. He was counting what he'd been given so he could better employ it. This wasn't sentimental, it was strategic. It fixed his mind on assets, not deficits, on what he could build with, not what he was missing. Seneca wrote about this. He said we should give thanks for what we have received, that we are wrong to believe we have received nothing. The fact of life itself, of reason, the capacity for joy and friendship, these are immense gifts. He observed that we treat these as entitlements. Then we feel cheated when fortune doesn't provide further luxuries, but the grateful mind sees the baseline as a marvel. A clear morning, a moment of health, the ability to understand an idea, the memory of a friend's kindness, these are the true treasures, and they are already in your vault. This nightly inventory counters the mind's natural negativity bias. Our minds are Velcro for threats and Teflon for blessings. We remember the one criticism, not the 10 compliments. We fixate on the single thing that went wrong, overlooking the 99 that went right. The gratitude practice is a corrective, a retraining of your focus. You teach your mind where to reliably find wealth. So a simple practice: tonight before you sleep, take a notebook or just a quiet moment. List 3 things you are grateful for from this day. With one rule, at least one of those 3 must be an internal quality or a non-material provision. Not just the coffee or the completed task, but the patience you found in a frustrating moment. The clarity from a difficult conversation, the lesson from a small mistake, the simple fact of your breath moving easily, the memory of a loved one's smile. For example, 1. I am grateful for the focus I found this afternoon to finish that report. 2. I am grateful for the warmth of the sun during my walk. 3. I am grateful for the resilience I showed when my plan fell apart. See the shift. The first and third are internal resources, your focus, your resilience. They are parts of your garrison. By naming them, you acknowledge their presence and their power. You reinforce their reality. This act does not deny hardship. It simply refuses to let hardship monopolize the narrative. It says, yes, there was a challenge today, and also there was this strength, there was this gift. It builds a balanced ledger. Over time, this ledger becomes the story you tell yourself about your life. Not a story of perpetual shortage, but of recurring, overlooked abundance. The prompt is this: perform this inventory tonight. Do not let the day end without naming your 3 provisions. Make one of them a quality you exhibited. Your honesty, your courage to be quiet, your willingness to listen. Write it down or speak it softly. Feel the weight of that internal resource. That is a brick in your wall. A barrel of grain in your storehouse. It is proof against the winter of circumstance. When you make this a habit, you accomplish something. You stop waiting for external fortune to make you feel rich. You discover the wealth you already govern, and a mind that feels rich in its own resources is a mind that is very difficult to besiege. Anger is the emotion that most easily tears down its own walls. It's a siege weapon you turn on yourself. In the Stoic inner citadel, anger is the ultimate failure of defense. because in a flash, it hands the keys of your inner kingdom over to something outside. It makes a temporary ruler of a passing impression. Seneca wrote a whole essay on this. He called anger a brief insanity. He said no plague has cost humanity more. And the Stoic insight is this: anger is never necessary. It's always based on a judgment that you've been wronged, and then a second, more dangerous judgment. That becoming angry is the right and useful response. Think of the mechanism. Something happens. A colleague takes credit for your idea. A driver makes a reckless move. Someone speaks to you with disrespect. The initial impression is a fact. The words were said, the action was taken. But then, in a split second, your mind makes two leaps. First, it judges the event as a personal injustice. They should not have done that. This is wrong. This harms me. Second, and this is the silent command, it judges that anger is the appropriate tool. That this feeling of heat, this surge, will correct the injustice, will punish the offender, will restore balance. The Stoics say both those judgments are faulty. The first is often an overstatement. The second is always a mistake, because anger clouds reason exactly when you need it most. In the grip of it, you can't think clearly about justice. You can only think about retaliation. Your inner citadel, built for calm judgment, is suddenly filled with the noise of your own storm. You are no longer governing. You are being governed by the very thing you wanted to defeat. Seneca put it sharply. He asked, "Would you hand a sword to a madman?" That's what you do when you act in anger. You arm your madness, so the Stoic response begins with a forced delay, a mandatory waiting period. The moment you feel the heat rise, the words form, the impulse to strike back, you impose a halt. You do not speak, you do not act, you do not even decide, you simply wait. You let the wave of the initial impression crash against the wall of your pause. Seneca advised this. He said the best cure for anger is delay. Give yourself time, time for the initial, fevered judgment to cool, time for your rational faculty, your commanding officer, to return to its post. In that space, you can begin the real work. You can interrogate the initial judgment. Ask, was this truly an injustice, or is it a matter of different perspective, simple human error, a misunderstanding? Is my interpretation of the event absolutely true? Often, you'll find the story you told yourself in that first flash is incomplete or wrong. But even if a wrong was done, you then ask the second, more important question. Is anger the useful tool here? Will it repair the situation? Will it teach the right lesson? Or will it simply escalate the conflict, damage a relationship, and leave you feeling ashamed of your own lack of control? The answer is almost always clear once the heat subsides. Anger is a bad tool. It's a blunt instrument that breaks the hand that wields it, so a practical exercise. Think back to the last time you felt genuine anger, not irritation but real heat. Replay the moment just before the feeling. What was the specific thought that triggered it? Was it, "They are undermining me"? Was it, "This is so unfair"? Was it, "How dare they"? That thought is the judgment. That is the breach in your wall. The external event was just the messenger. Your judgment was the command to open the gate and let the army in. Your practice, starting now, is to catch that judgment next time, to feel the surge and instead of riding it, to plant your feet. To say, "Not yet, I will decide in 10 minutes or 1 hour or tomorrow." In that delay, you reclaim your sovereignty. You demonstrate to yourself that your inner peace is more valuable than any momentary, fiery satisfaction. You prove that the walls of your citadel can hold, even against your own most volatile impulse, and with each time you succeed, the walls grow thicker and the gates grow heavier. Until anger finds no easy entry at all. The sage is a light on the shore. It's a direction, not a place you have to be. In Stoicism, the sage is the ideal. A model of a person who's fully realized. But if you treat that ideal like a test you're taking every day, you'll always feel like you're failing. The point isn't to become the sage. The point is to steer toward it. Every small correction in your course, that's a victory. That's the idea of Prokopton, the person who's making progress. Your aim isn't perfection, it's the next brick, the next moment you see things clearly, the next breath where you remember what you can control. Epictetus taught this constantly. He said, if you want to be a philosopher, show it in what you do. But he was also compassionate about the struggle. He compared it to going to a festival. You can't just grab the food and run. You have to make the offering first. You have to do the work. The festival is the ideal life, the sage peace. The offering is your daily effort. He told his students not to be discouraged if they couldn't live the teachings completely. The fact you see the gap, that's where wisdom starts. You're looking at the star, you've set a course. This stops the inner citadel from becoming a prison. Think of two people practicing. The first reads Marcus Aurelius and thinks, I must never feel anger. Then they feel frustration and they collapse. I lost my temper, I'm a fraud, this doesn't work. They've used the ideal to beat themselves up. The second person feels the same surge. But they noticed something. This time they felt the heat, but they didn't shout. They paused for 3 seconds. That's a win. Last month it would have been an outburst. That's progress. They laid a brick. Their wall is 1 layer higher. They are not the sage, but they're closer to shore than yesterday. That distinction is everything. One sees the journey as a series of failures to cross a finish line. The other sees it as navigation, successes in steering. Your inner citadel is built that second way. Not in 1 day of perfect virtue, but in thousands of moments of slightly better choice. Choosing patience once, choosing curiosity over defensiveness once. Choosing to finish a task with care once. Those are the bricks. They're small, they're humble, but together they build something strong. So here's a prompt. Look back on the principles, the dichotomy of control, withholding, assent. Pick one area. Where have you made the slightest progress? Maybe you now recognize when you're blaming something outside, even if you still feel the blame. That's progress. Maybe you caught yourself about to get angry and you took 1 breath. That's a brick. Maybe the idea of an inner citadel just exists in your mind now as a possibility. That's the foundation. Acknowledge that. Name it to yourself. Don't compare it to the sage on the distant shore. Compare it to where you were standing on the beach before you ever looked up and saw the star. That distance, however small, is real. It's your strength, and it's proof the walls are rising, one conscious choice at a time. Your fortress is in a landscape of outside events. You might want fair weather, but your peace isn't tied to it. That's the Stoic idea of indifference. It's a way of sorting everything outside your own virtue. Things like health, wealth, reputation, comfort, even life itself. They're called indifference, not because they don't matter, but because they don't define your soul. They aren't good or bad by themselves. Only how you use them can be good or bad. The old Stoics were precise about this. They split indifference into 2 kinds. Preferred and dispreferred. Preferred ones are what we naturally go after. Good health, financial security, friendship, a solid reputation. Dispreferred are what we naturally avoid. Illness, poverty, loneliness, a bad name. The point is in the name. They're indifferent to your moral character. Your virtue, your inner citadel, stays intact whether you have them or not. You engage with them, but you don't stake your core peace on them. You treat them like the landscape. You farm the good soil when it's there. You build shelters for the storm. But your identity, your worth, your happiness, those are rooted in the stone beneath the soil, in your character. That's why a Stoic can pursue a career with real passion. They can work for a promotion, for recognition, for the money, but their aim is different. They're not working for the promotion as the final prize. They're working to express excellence. To act with diligence, integrity, creativity. The promotion is a preferred indifferent, a welcome outcome. It allows for more service, more security. But if it doesn't come, their core project is already done. They've already succeeded by acting with virtue. Their inner citadel isn't breached by the news. They're equally prepared in their mind for either outcome, because they never mortgage their peace to get it. Think of two gardeners. One gardens only for the prize-winning rose. Their joy is completely tied to that blue ribbon. A late frost, a pest, a judge's different taste, and their whole season is a crushing failure. The second gardener loves the craft itself. The feel of the soil, the patience of growth, the learning each season. They certainly prefer to grow a beautiful rose. They'll do everything they can to nurture it. But if the rose doesn't win or doesn't even bloom, the gardener's core satisfaction is still there. The value was in the tending. The rose was the preferred indifferent. The gardening was the good. That mindset changes ambition. It turns it from a source of anxiety into focused, calm energy. You're freed to perform at your best precisely because you aren't desperate for the outside validation. Your effort comes from a place of abundance, not lack. So here's a prompt. Take a moment. List your top 3 preferred indifference. What outside conditions do you naturally seek? Maybe it's a certain financial comfort, a specific job title, a particular relationship status, a level of physical fitness. Write them down. Now, next to each one, write a single sentence. Complete this thought. If I were to lose this, I could maintain my core peace by remembering that my worth is rooted in might, and then name the internal quality that no outside loss can touch. Your integrity, your capacity to learn, your resilience, your compassion. This exercise isn't about expecting loss. It's about knowing your foundation. It's about walking out into that landscape around your citadel, appreciating its beauty, tending to it with care, but knowing your true home is always secure behind you. Built on ground that can't be washed away, the gates are closed for the night. You inspect the walls for any cracks that appeared today. This is the evening review. The commander's debrief of your inner citadel. It's a practice of turning your day into a blueprint for a stronger tomorrow. The Stoics didn't build their mental fortress just by reading philosophy. They built it by auditing the day's construction, brick by brick. Seneca wrote about this. He described how another philosopher, Sextius, would end his day with a question. What bad habit have you cured today? What fault have you resisted? In what way are you better? This wasn't about guilt, it was about clarity, a clear-eyed look at the day's engagements. To see where the defenses held and where they might have been tested. Think of it this way. A master carpenter doesn't just build furniture, they examine their work at the end of the day. They run a hand along the joint, checking for gaps. They note where the chisel slipped so tomorrow's cut can be truer. The evening review is that same quality check. But for your character, it's active learning. You're transforming your daily life into a training manual for resilience. All the minor skirmishes, the quiet victories. You're not just living the day, you're studying it to become the architect of a better one. The practice is simple. It takes just a few quiet minutes. You ask yourself 3 questions. First, where did I succeed today? Where did my walls hold? Maybe you received some frustrating news and you managed to pause before reacting. You withheld assent to a catastrophic story. That's a success. Maybe you performed a tedious task with full attention, staying in the present moment. That's a brick firmly placed. Acknowledge it. This isn't pride. It's taking inventory of your supplies, noting which tools worked. Second, where did I act against my principles? Where did a crack appear? Be specific but gentle. Did I lose an hour to anxious worry about a future I can't control? Did I speak harshly out of impatience? Did I assent too quickly to the impression that someone's comment was a personal attack? Identify the specific breach, not to condemn yourself but to locate the repair. This is the inspection. You're not the failed wall. You're the watchman who spotted the weak point by lantern light. Third, and this is the crucial step, what can I do differently tomorrow? This turns observation into strategy. If the breach was impatient speech, your plan might be to institute a mandatory 3-second pause before responding tomorrow. If it was wasted time on worry, your plan might be to write down the worry and consciously place it in the column of things not up to you. You're not just noting a fault. You're drafting a better protocol for your garrison, so try a brief version for today. Find a quiet space for just a moment. Let your mind drift back over the hours. Don't judge the whole day, just look for one single clear instance, a moment where you felt a flash of strength, of calm, of patience. It could be very small. Holding a door, taking a deep breath when you felt rushed, finishing something you said you would. Note that success silently. Now, look for one moment of friction. A point where you felt your peace disrupted, where you felt reactive, defensive, or scattered. Identify the specific trigger. Was it a thought, a person, a change of plans? Finally, for that moment of friction, design one small, concrete adjustment for tomorrow. If the trigger was a demanding email first thing in the morning, your adjustment could be to not open your inbox for the first 30 minutes of work. If it was a feeling of resentment, your adjustment could be to practice the view from above for 60 seconds when that feeling arises. You now have a plan. A single, manageable piece of tomorrow's construction. This nightly ritual does more than improve habits. It reinforces your identity as the commander of your inner world. It proves you are not a passive subject of your days, but an active student of them. And with each review, the blueprint for your unshakable mind becomes a little more detailed. A little more yours. Praise inflates you, criticism deflates you. A strong citadel doesn't need either one as its foundation. That's the 21st principle. The indifferent arrows, they're shot from outside your walls. Whether they're tipped with flattery or blame, your task is the same. You watch them fly past. You can examine them when they land, but you never let them pierce the peace inside. Your worth isn't a verdict. It's not delivered by a jury of outsiders. It's a quiet knowing, built from your own actions, from the quality of your own character. The opinions of others are just weather. Some days it's warm praise. Other days it's a cold critique, but you are not the weather, you are the structure, the one that stands through all the seasons. Marcus Aurelius had to navigate this. He was the emperor, surrounded by flatterers and critics. He wrote to himself that the applause of the crowd is just a noise, the clapping of hands, it's an external event. Like the wind in the trees, it has nothing to do with your soul. He reminded himself not to be distracted by the chatter, to keep his mind on his own work, on his own duty, on his own standard. Epictetus had even sharper advice. He was born into hardship. He said, if anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, don't make excuses. Instead, answer, he was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone. It's a reframe. It treats criticism not as a threat, but as incomplete data. It assumes the critic only saw a fraction of your possible shortcomings. This isn't self-deprecation, it's detachment. It places the value judgment back in your own court. The practical application is a filter, 2 steps. When criticism arrives, your first job is to disarm it emotionally. You feel the initial sting, the flush of defensiveness. You acknowledge that feeling as a natural reflex, and then you consciously set it aside. That's the emotional charge, the arrow's impact. Now you pick up the arrow itself. You look at the shaft, that's the factual content. With calm curiosity, you ask one question. Is there any truth here I can use to improve? Not, is this person right about me? But is there a useful signal in this noise? Sometimes the answer is yes. The criticism might be poorly delivered, wrapped in anger, but at its core is a valid observation. A missed deadline, a careless word, a skill that needs work. You extract that core, you thank the person if that's appropriate, and you use it as raw material for your own growth. That's turning an arrow into a tool. Often, though, the answer is no. The criticism is about the other person's mood, their projections, their own issues. In that case, you let the arrow lie on the ground, outside your wall. It is not your weapon. It is not your truth. You walk away, your inner peace undisturbed. The same filter works for praise. When compliments come, you receive them graciously. A simple thank you is enough, but you don't internalize them as your new identity. You don't start building your self-image upon them, because praise, like criticism, is an external judgment. It can be withdrawn as quickly as it's given. If you become dependent on it, you hand over the keys to your confidence. You become a performer, constantly checking the audience for approval. Instead, you let the praise be a pleasant acknowledgement. And then you return your focus to your own standards. Was my work aligned with my values? Did I act with integrity? That's the only review that matters. So here's a prompt. Think of a recent instance, large or small, where you received either strong criticism or effusive praise. Replay the moment now, separate it into two parts. First, the emotional impact, the flush of pride or the sting of hurt. Acknowledge that feeling, then gently set it to the side. Second, the factual content. What was actually said? What specific words were used? Examine those words alone, stripped of their emotional packaging. Ask yourself, from this neutral content, is there a single, actionable piece of information I can use? A genuine correction to make, a confirmation of a strength I already knew I had. If there is, take it. If there isn't, let the rest go. It was just weather. Passing by your walls, add 3 words to any plan you make. Fate permitting, that's the reserve clause. It's a kind of shield you put around your intention. A way to go after something with everything you have, but hold the result loosely. The Stoics thought this was the only reasonable way to operate in a world you don't control. You do everything that's up to you, and then you leave the rest to nature, to how things actually unfold. This isn't about weak effort, it's about wise engagement. It means I'm going to pour myself into this, but I'm not arrogant enough to think the final outcome is mine to command. It takes the dichotomy of control and builds it right into how you plan. Before you even start, you've already made peace with 2 futures, the one where you succeed and the one where, for reasons you can't see, you get redirected. The old Stoic teachers built this into their thinking. They talked about doing all that is within your power, while accepting the vast web of cause and effect. Your action is one thread in that, an important thread, but just one. The reserve clause respects that complexity. It stops you from tying your whole sense of success to a finish line you might not reach. Because sometimes the universe has a different lesson planned, a different path. Your job is to follow the path of your effort, not to demand a specific destination. Take a practical case. You've got a big presentation at work. You prepare meticulously, you practice, you refine the slides. Your intention is clear. I will deliver a great presentation today. Now add the clause, I will deliver a great presentation today, fate permitting. What changes? Your commitment doesn't waver. You still do the work, but the underlying anxiety loosens. Because you've already acknowledged the possibilities. The projector could fail, you could lose your voice, a fire alarm could go off. Those things aren't in your power. By adding fate permitting, you've made room for them in your mind. If they happen, it's not a shocking betrayal of the plan. It's just part of the if nothing prevents me condition. Your peace isn't shattered, your effort was still good. Your focus stays on what you controlled, your preparation, your attitude, how you adapted in the moment. Apply it to a long-term goal. I will train for and run the marathon if nothing prevents me. You commit to the training schedule. You show up in the rain. You eat right, you do your part. The clause covers the rest. A sudden injury, a family emergency, a global event that cancels the race. Those aren't failures of your will. They're the nothing that prevented you. Your success was in the virtuous effort of training, in the discipline you built. The race itself was a preferred indifferent. A nice celebration of that effort, but not the only source of its value. This changes how you move. you stop seeing plans as promises the world has to keep. You start seeing them as maps you draw with the humility to know the terrain might change. You become the dedicated captain and the flexible navigator at the same time. So try this. Bring to mind a plan or a goal you have right now. For this week, this year, say it to yourself quietly. Now gently add the 3 words. Fate permitting, or if nothing prevents me. Feel the subtle shift in your chest, that slight exhale. That's the pressure releasing. That's your inner citadel recognizing that your peace isn't riding on the outcome. It's secured in the quality of the attempt, and from that secure place you can actually try harder with more freedom, because you have nothing left to lose except the illusion of control. Even the strongest walls face storms. The question isn't whether they get wet, it's whether they stand. Loss is one of those storms, a downpour that feels like it will never end. And there's this idea that Stoicism means feeling nothing, that you stand stone-faced in the rain and pretend you're dry, but that's not it. The inner citadel isn't a place of numbness. It's a safe harbor where you can feel the full force of the gale without being swept away. The Stoic aim is to experience the natural feeling without adding the second story. The story that this loss is a unique, unbearable injustice, that the universe has personally wronged you. That judgment is what turns grief into a siege. What collapses the walls from the inside? Seneca wrote a letter to a woman named Marcia who was grieving her son. He didn't tell her to stop crying. He acknowledged her sorrow as a natural, human response to love, but then he guided her. He reminded her that her son had lived, that the time they had was a gift. He asked her to consider whether her prolonged grief was what her son would have wanted for her. He advised a return to the rational life, not as a denial of feeling, but as an honoring of the love that remains. The love that can still be expressed in service, in memory, in continued living. That's the navigation. You allow the wave of sadness to wash through you. You don't build a dam against it, but you also don't let the wave convince you the entire ocean is now poison. You separate the raw event of loss from the narrative of permanent ruin. The event is outside your control. It's part of nature's cycle. Everything that comes together eventually comes apart. To love something is to accept that clause from the beginning. Your judgment about the event, though, is within your citadel. You can judge it as a total catastrophe that ends your own capacity for joy, or you can judge it as a profound sadness within the natural order. A sadness that, in time, can coexist with gratitude for what was. So what does this look like after the storm has passed? It begins with a conscious practice of honoring. Not by clinging to the pain, but by consciously remembering the good. You set aside a quiet moment. You bring to mind the person, the opportunity, the chapter that is gone. And you list, even if just in your heart, specific things you are grateful for. The laughter you shared, the lessons you learned, the simple presence that brightened ordinary days. This act of gratitude doesn't erase the loss. It places a candle beside it. It acknowledges that the value was real, and that value isn't destroyed because the form has changed. The second step is accepting change itself. To look at the cycle of nature, the leaves falling, the seasons turning, the generations passing, and see your loss not as a violation of the rules, but as a participation in them. This is the view from above, applied to the heart. It doesn't lessen the love, it contextualizes the pain. It says, this hurt is the price of attachment in a world of impermanent things. And I chose to pay that price because the attachment was worth it. Finally, you gently refocus on present duties, not as a distraction, but as a reaffirmation of life. The world still needs your contribution, your capacity to care, to work, to be kind. These aren't buried with what you lost. They are the legacy of it. By engaging with the present task, however small, you rebuild the rhythm of life around the absence. You prove to yourself that your citadel, though weathered, still has a functioning gate. You can still step out and tend to the garden even if one beloved tree is gone. So here's a reflective prompt if you feel ready. Think of a past loss. It could be of a person, a dream, a time in your life. Instead of focusing only on the emptiness it left, ask yourself two gentle questions. First, what did that relationship or experience give me that I am still, to this day, grateful for? Name one specific quality or memory. Second, how did navigating that loss reveal a strength in me I might not have known I had? Did it teach me resilience, compassion for others, or a deeper appreciation for fleeting moments? There's no need to rush this. The storm passes in its own time, but within your walls you can choose to remember not just the rain, but the shelter. And with each memory of gratitude, you repair a stone, you let the light back in, and you find that the citadel, tested by the storm, stands not in spite of the loss, but with a new understanding woven into its very walls. Picture two circles. One is small, drawn right around you. The other is enormous, containing almost everything else. That's your map. The small one is your influence. The huge one is your concern, and your peace depends on which one you live inside. That small circle is the circle of influence. It comes from the idea of control. It asks a simple question: where is your defensive energy going? Are you guarding the small gate of your own actions, or are you trying to patrol a border that goes all the way to the horizon? That effort has a name. It's anxiety. It's the feeling of being outmatched because you're trying to control what you can't: the weather, world events, the opinions of strangers, past decisions. Your energy goes into that outer circle and it just vanishes like watering sand. It leaves you drained. Real strength comes from a retreat, not from the world, a strategic withdrawal to ground you can actually defend. You pull your energy back from that vast territory of concern, and you concentrate it inside the small nation of your influence. That's your domain, your effort, your preparation, your attitude right now, your next word, your chosen response. Epictetus started his whole book with this. He said some things are up to us and some are not. The circle of influence is the daily use of that. It's a filter. Before you invest in any worry, you run it through. Does this fall within my circle? Can I actually do something? If the answer is no, you acknowledge it and you let it go. You place it outside your walls. It can be out there, but it doesn't get your supplies. Take modern politics. For most of us, the headlines, the debates, the scandals, they're in the outer circle of concern. We can't control them. We can't change the outcome alone. Spending hours in outrage over them, in anxious scrolling, is like shaking your fist at a storm cloud. It uses energy and changes nothing except your own blood pressure. But inside your circle of influence, that's different. You can register to vote. You can have a respectful talk with a neighbor. You can volunteer locally for a cause you believe in. You can write a letter to a representative. These are small, concrete actions. They don't guarantee a national outcome, but they are real expressions of your values. They use your energy where it can actually land. The shift is deep. You move from being a passive consumer of anxiety to an active participant in your corner of the world. Your sense of agency comes back because you're not trying to move the mountain anymore. You're just carrying your single stone. So here's a prompt. Take a moment. List your top 3 worries right now. Now draw those 2 circles. Put each worry in the right one. Is it something you can influence through your own actions today? Or is it something you're concerned about but can't control? Be honest. For the things in the outer circle, practice a release. Say, I place this outside my walls. It doesn't get my energy today. For the things in the inner circle, ask a new question. What is one small action I can take today to nudge this forward? Not solve it, just nudge it. Send the email, make the plan, have the calm conversation. Do 5 minutes of research. By doing this audit, you do 2 things. You stop the bleeding of energy into a void, and you start a focused flow into the ground you actually govern. That's how a citadel is kept, not by fearing every distant shadow, but by shining your light on the ground you're sworn to protect. A fortress full of extra gear is hard to defend. A mind full of extra thoughts is the same. That's the 25th principle, simplicity of thought. It's clearing the inner courtyard, taking out the mental clutter that weakens your walls from the inside. And that clutter isn't just distraction. It's the layers of story, the analysis, the speculation you pile onto a simple event, until you're not dealing with the event anymore. You're wrestling with a monster made of your own commentary. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this. He told himself to strip away the impressions that cling to something, to see the thing itself naked. He said very little is needed for a happy life. It's all within you, in your way of thinking, and most of what we do and say is not necessary. That's the key. Most of the noise in your head is optional. It's extra gear stored in the courtyard, something you trip over when you try to mount a defense. Complexity in judgment almost always comes before anxiety. Take a simple event, an email from your boss that says we need to talk tomorrow. The bare fact is a scheduled conversation. That's it, but the undisciplined mind doesn't stop there. It adds layers. It asks why we need to talk. Is it about my performance? Did I do something wrong? Maybe they're letting people go. What if I lose my job? How will I pay the mortgage? The spiral builds a towering story from a single line of text. The anxiety comes from the story, not from the email. The email was just a messenger. The story you told yourself is the invading army. Simplicity of thought is meeting the messenger at the gate, taking the note and reading only the words written, not the ones you imagine between the lines. It's reducing the complex worry to its bare, objective facts. Instead of the thought that my career is a failure, you simplify. The truth is this specific project did not get the result I wanted. That's a manageable piece of data, a single stone, not a landslide. You can work with that. You can learn from that. The story of total failure is a fortress-crushing tale you've chosen to believe. So how do you practice this clearing? It starts with a pause. A ruthless editing of your internal language. When you catch yourself in a spiral of what-ifs, you stop. You take out a mental sheet of paper. You write down the worry at its most elaborate. Then you cross out every assumption, every prediction, every emotional label. You strip it back to the observable facts. What actually happened, what was actually said. What is the next immediate action required of me? Everything else gets moved outside the walls. It's commentary. It's not the event. Think of a gardener overwhelmed by a wild, overgrown plot. They don't try to tackle the whole tangled mess at once. They start with one corner. They clear the obvious weeds. They see the soil beneath. Your mind is that garden. Simplicity of thought is the daily weeding, removing the invasive stories that choke out clear perception. Here's a prompt. Before the day ends, take one recurring anxious thought. One that visits often. It might be about money, a relationship, your worth. Now, with gentle ruthlessness, simplify it. Reduce it to its core, objective truth. If the thought is I'm falling behind everyone my age, ask for the evidence. What is the measurable benchmark? Is it salary, title, home ownership? Name the single factual gap if one even exists. Then set the sweeping, dramatic story aside. You are now dealing with a fact, not a phantom. And a fact is something you can address or accept with the clear-eyed calm of a commander surveying the actual landscape. The clutter is gone, the courtyard is clear, and from that open space you can see the sky again. Fear is a messenger. It's not the one giving orders. Courage is when you decide to read that message and then choose to go a different way. That's the 26th principle, courage as the will to endure. Stoic courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the judgment that something else matters more. Your virtue, your duty, your integrity, and then the will to act or to endure based on that judgment. It's the active defense of your inner citadel. the choice to man the walls when the storm is the loudest. The ancient Stoics revered this. They saw it as one of the four cardinal virtues, alongside wisdom, justice, temperance. For them, courage was the virtue that protected all the others. It's what lets you be wise when others are panicking, just when others cut corners, temperate when others indulge. It's the garrison that holds the line so the rest of the city can function. Their exemplar was Cato the Younger, a Roman senator who lived his Stoic principles to the very end. In a time of civil war, political corruption, he stood for the Roman Republic. He spoke against the rising power of Julius Caesar, knowing it made him enemies. He endured exile, military defeat, constant political pressure. His final act, choosing his own passing rather than live under a tyranny he believed violated justice. The Stoics saw that as the ultimate act of courage. Not because he wasn't afraid, because he judged his fidelity to the Republic, to his own principles, as more important than his life. He defended his inner citadel to the last breath. This courage applies far beyond physical danger. It shows up in three arenas: the physical, of course, facing illness, injury, threat; the social, enduring disapproval, ridicule, ostracism for doing what you believe is right; and the internal, the daily, quiet struggle against your own vices, laziness, temptations. That last one is often the hardest fortress to defend. Think of an everyday form of this. Speaking a difficult truth to a friend or a superior. The fear is social. The worry of conflict, of being disliked, of damaging the relationship. Courage here is the judgment that honesty, the long-term health of the relationship, is more important than your temporary comfort. It's the will to speak with kindness and clarity, even while your heart is pounding, or starting a difficult new habit for your health, waking up earlier to exercise. Changing your diet. The fear is internal. The dread of discomfort, of fatigue, of breaking old, comfortable patterns. Courage is the judgment that your long-term well-being, your self-respect, is more important than the immediate craving for ease. It's the will to endure those first few weeks of struggle, even enduring a period of financial or professional uncertainty without panic. That's an act of courage. The fear is of the future, of loss, of failure. Courage is the judgment that your character, your resilience, your patience, your ability to adapt is more important than securing a specific outcome right now. It's the will to endure the ambiguity, to take the next logical step without being ruled by anxiety. The Stoic insight is that fear points to what you value. If you fear social ridicule, you value social approval. If you fear discomfort, you value comfort. Courage involves a conscious re-ranking. You decide that something you value more, your integrity, your growth, your duty, outranks the thing the fear is protecting. You're not eliminating the fear, you're choosing to walk through it because you've seen a greater good on the other side. So here's a reflective prompt. What's one thing you know you should do that a quiet fear is holding you back from? It might be a conversation, a career move, a creative project, a personal boundary. Name the fear. Is it fear of failure, of judgment, of the unknown? Now, identify the virtuous quality that acting would defend. Would it be defending your honesty, your self-respect, your commitment to growth, your responsibility to others? See the action not as a risk but as a defense, a move to reinforce that particular wall of your inner citadel. With that reframe, courage isn't about being fearless. It's about knowing exactly what you're protecting and why it's worth the temporary siege. Your citadel, the walls, the gate, the tower, the well, they're all one thing. Built from the four virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, temperance. The Stoics didn't see them as separate traits. They're interlocking defenses, a single system of strength. If you weaken one, you weaken the whole fortress. If you reinforce one, the whole structure gets more resilient. That's the unity of the virtues. It's a philosophical idea, but it has practical power. You can't be truly just without wisdom. because justice needs the wisdom to see what's fair, to understand the context, to know the right action. You can't be truly courageous without temperance. Raw bravery without self-control is just recklessness. It's a charge that leaves your flanks exposed, and you can't have temperance without courage, saying no to a craving or yes to a difficult discipline that requires the courage to endure some discomfort. They feed each other. Progress in one area isn't a solo achievement. It's a deposit into the shared account of your character. The ancient Stoic teachers like Chrysippus, they argued for this. They said virtue is a single state of the soul, a condition of excellence. Its expressions are different, acting wisely here, courageously there, but the source is one. A well-ordered mind, think of it like a physical citadel. The wall is courage. It stands firm against attack. The gate is temperance. It decides what gets in and what stays out. The watchtower is wisdom. It sees the landscape clearly, spotting threats and opportunities from a distance. The central well, providing for all within, is justice. It ensures the resources, the care, the duty are distributed fairly. If the well runs dry, the guards on the wall grow weak. If the gate is broken, the watchtower's view is useless. They all depend on each other. Now bring this down to a daily practice. Say you decide to work on temperance, the discipline of desire. You choose to eat more mindfully, to resist scrolling before bed. It seems like a small act of self-control, but look at what it builds. First, it requires wisdom. The wisdom to recognize that the immediate pleasure of that extra snack or that 10th video isn't worth the longer-term cost. To your energy, to your peace, you're exercising discernment. Second, it builds courage. Every time you say no to the easy, automatic choice, you're strengthening the muscle of endurance. You're proving to yourself you can face a minor hardship, a small craving, and come out the other side unchanged. That courage then becomes available for bigger things. The difficult conversation, the career risk, standing up for a principle. Third, this practice of temperance feeds justice. How? By mastering your own desires, you free up your energy and attention. You're no longer a slave to your impulses. That means you have more capacity to be present for others, to listen fairly, to contribute to your community without being distracted by your own wants. Your self-control creates inner space, and in that space you can better consider what is owed to the people around you. One virtuous action, like a single stone, supports multiple walls. The Stoics believed you couldn't truly possess one virtue without the others. A person who is wise but cowardly isn't truly wise because their wisdom fails when it's most needed. A person who is disciplined but unjust has turned temperance into a cold, self-serving isolation. So here's a reflective prompt. Look at the 4 virtues. Wisdom, the ability to navigate with clear judgment. Courage, the strength to endure and act despite fear. Justice, the commitment to fairness and duty to others. Temperance, the self-regulation of your desires, which one feels like your most natural stronghold, your strongest wall. Now explore how that virtue secretly supports the other 3. If your stronghold is courage, how does that bravery create space for you to be more just, to stand up for someone else? How does it give you the strength to be temperate, to endure a desire you're choosing not to fulfill? How does acting courageously teach you wisdom about what truly matters, what you're truly capable of? Trace those connections in your own life. See your character not as a collection of separate scores, but as a single, growing fortress, where every act of integrity, no matter how small, reinforces the entire edifice. The final brick might be a smile. Stoics valued a kind of cheerful resilience. A truly unshakable mind isn't a stern, joyless fortress. It has windows, it lets the light in, and from inside you can see how ridiculous the whole siege can look. Laughing, especially at yourself, is a sign of detachment. It means you're not fused with the event, you're observing from a distance, and you can see its absurd shape. This isn't about making light of real suffering. It's about refusing to give a minor annoyance the weight of a Shakespearean tragedy. Humor is a tool for perspective. It shrinks problems down to their actual size. It deflates pretension in others and in yourself. When you chuckle at your own mistake, you've disarmed it. It can't define you as a failure anymore. It's just a thing that happened, a funny misstep in the human comedy. Seneca wrote about anger and anxiety, but he also spoke of facing life with a cheerful face. He advised meeting fortune's blows with a steady mind and even a smile. He saw that lightness as the mark of a free soul, not battered into submission, but so secure in itself that external chaos becomes a kind of spectacle. Marcus Aurelius carried the weight of an empire. He reminded himself to approach his duties without grimness, without reluctance. He wrote that the soul can keep its own cheerfulness, its tranquility. And that's a form of justice to yourself. To deny yourself that lightness is to add an extra hardship to the one's life already gives you. So how does this work on a Tuesday when you spill coffee on your shirt before a meeting? The undisciplined mind spirals. It's a disaster. I look unprofessional. My whole morning is ruined. The mind practicing Stoic humor takes a breath. It looks at the situation and might offer a quiet comment. Well, that's a bold new pattern or a classic move. It sees the event as a tiny comedy. The universe isn't punishing you. It's just presenting a minor, messy inconvenience. By finding that sliver of irony, you break the spell of catastrophe. Your mood doesn't plummet. You clean up, maybe make a light joke, and you move on. The problem's emotional power is gone. You've used laughter to reinforce your wall. Think of a recent minor setback, a tech glitch, a clumsy moment, a plan that went slightly, comically wrong. Instead of replaying the frustration, try to find one genuinely humorous angle. Was it predictable? Did it expose a hidden vanity or a silly assumption? Can you see it as a scene from a sitcom? Spend a moment looking for that angle. You don't have to laugh out loud, just acknowledge the absurdity. That simple act is the placement of that final, surprising brick. It proves your inner citadel is strong enough not just to withstand the world, but to sometimes find the whole performance wonderfully, humanly funny. Each morning, before anything else happens, you gather your thoughts and you state your principles. That's the daily ritual, the commander's address to the troops inside your own mind. You don't wait for the stress to find you unprepared. You stand there in the quiet, you look at the day coming, and you give the orders. This morning preparation is a kind of fortification. It's the difference between being caught asleep and being ready, shields locked at first light. Marcus Aurelius did this in his private writings. The start of Book 5 of his Meditations reads like an order to himself. He writes at dawn, when you don't want to get up, tell yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being. What do I have to complain about if I'm going out to do what I was born for? He was setting his intention before his feet hit the floor, aligning his purpose with his nature before the empire could pull him elsewhere. That's the core. It's a brief, deliberate alignment. You're not just waking up to react, you're waking up to act from a place of chosen principle. So what does a practical version of this look like? It's simple, but it needs those first quiet moments. Before you check a single notification, before the mental list starts, you sit or stand by the window. You take one slow breath, then you do 3 things in order. First, you visualize the day's likely challenges, not to worry, but to acknowledge them. To see them coming, you might think, today I have that difficult meeting at 10, or I'm traveling and the airport will be crowded, or I need to have a money conversation I've been avoiding. You name the terrain. This isn't inviting anxiety. It's a scout's report. You're removing the element of surprise. Second, you remind yourself of the dichotomy of control. You look at those named challenges and you consciously sort them. You say, the outcome of that meeting is not up to me, but my preparation, my clarity, my conduct during it are entirely mine. The airport crowds are not up to me, but my patience, my courtesy to staff, my use of the waiting time are within my command. This step draws the boundary around your citadel for the day. It defines what you will defend and what you will let pass by outside the walls. Third, and most important, you resolve to meet everything with integrity. You choose a single virtue to be your watchword for the next 16 hours. It might be courage, it might be patience, it might be kindness. You say it plainly. Today I will meet all events with patience, or today I will act with courage in my communication. That's your standing order to the garrison. No matter what messenger arrives at the gate, the response must be filtered through this principle. This ritual takes the philosophy off the page and wires it into your nervous system for the day ahead. It moves Stoicism from something you think about to something you live from. From the first interaction, so here's a prompt for tomorrow morning. Design a one-sentence morning affirmation based on a Stoic principle. Make it your own. It could be as direct as today, I will remember that my peace depends only on my judgments, or I will welcome every obstacle as material for my growth. Or simply, I control my effort, not the outcome. Write it down tonight, put it where you'll see it first thing, and tomorrow, in those quiet minutes, speak it to yourself. Not as a wish, but as a command, from the commander of the inner citadel to the garrison within. With that order given, you can open the gates and meet the day not as a victim of its chaos, but as the author of your response. The blueprint is done. You have the design for an inner world that can't be breached, a mind that decides its own weather, even when there's a storm outside. This isn't about being invulnerable. It's the outcome of a daily project. You lay one brick at a time. The first brick is the dichotomy of control. That's the ruthless sorting of what's yours from what isn't. On that foundation, you build the gatekeeper. That's withheld assent. It decides which impressions get to shape your reality. Then you reinforce the walls with the discipline of desire. Aligning your wants with your own virtue, you make sure the fortress has a purpose with the discipline of action, engaging the world from a place of calm contribution. You cap the towers with Amor Fati, learning to love the very obstacles that seem to threaten you, and you walk the battlements each night. You review the day's construction. You plan tomorrow's repairs. This is the work. It's not one grand gesture. It's 1,000 small corrections, a conscious choice to pause before you react. A deliberate reframe of a setback, a moment of gratitude for an internal strength. Each one is a brick placed with intention. The goal was never to become a hermit. Sealed off from life, the citadel is your base of operations. A place of such deep security that you can engage with the world fully, generously, without fear of being overthrown by its chaos. Your peace isn't a condition the world has to meet anymore. It's the ground you stand on while you meet the world. Epictetus captured this freedom. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And who is master of himself? The one who governs their own judgments, their desires and aversions. The one who finds their good and evil not in externals but within their own reasoned choice. That's the freedom the inner citadel grants. External forces will always exist. Traffic jams, difficult people, unexpected losses, shifting fortunes. That's the landscape. It's not going away, but a mind trained in Stoicism stops seeing them as commanders. It sees them as terrain, and from within its own strong walls, it chooses its response. It chooses patience over fury, curiosity over defensiveness, courage over retreat. That choice is your ultimate sovereignty. So as this guide ends, the real building begins. With one simple question, which brick will you lay first? Will it be the practice of pausing for 3 breaths before you react to a frustration tomorrow? Will it be the evening review, taking just 2 minutes to note one success and one lesson? Or will it be the morning affirmation, stating your key virtue before the day pulls you in a dozen directions? Choose one and begin.